Evening. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. And we're gonna open the regular meeting at 5:31. And thank you. Could we get roll call, please? I am here.
Executive Judge present.
Yes, we have one. Thank you very much. Oh, do we have any public comment on closed session items? We do not. Okay, then we will convene to closed session and come back at 6 for open session. Thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone to get your public comment forms in if you plan on making the public comment. Thank you. That's it. Oh, I know. She hadn't started it. You good? Hello. Can you hear me now? Okay, I am not sure if everyone can hear me. Sorry, I'm moving my things around. Welcome. We will continue with open session now at 6:07. Welcome to the meeting. Could we have roll call, please?
Yes, President Nakatani,
Here.
trustee Sernsichaj Hodge.
Present.
I am trustee Katz and I'm present, and trustee Abdulli and trustee Yu are absent.
Thank you. This meeting is being live streamed via Zoom, will be recorded and available on our website. I tend to forget to say that. There is no report out from closed session. And so we're going to go straight to the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Agenda approved. And read the whole thing? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk about public comment and addressing the board. Public comment provides time for members of the audience to address the board on any school-related matter not on the agenda. The board can take no action at this time. Each speaker is requested to identify him or herself prior to addressing the board and will be heard for up to 3 minutes. The presiding officer of the board shall determine, based on time constraints of the board, whether some time less than 3 minutes shall be allocated to individual speakers. For public comments of items not on the agenda, public comments on items not on the agenda will be taken as outlined in the public comment section. And public comments for items on the agenda is this right? 90 minutes?
They're 90 minutes prior
Okay.
for those individuals.
For those individuals attending in person, public comment cards are available immediately prior to the meeting. They're over there behind the wall. At the start of open session, we'll announce that public comments for items on the agenda will be taken online or in person through the end of the superintendent's report. There is no superintendent's report, so that was just why I reminded everyone to get their comment card in. Following the report, public comment for items on the agenda will be closed.
So I
So-
would say, just to clarify one more time, we have one person with public comment for D1 at the end of this person's time. We should have all the ones for items on the agenda.
On the agenda,
submitted.
okay.
If you want
So
to just
I
clarify
will,
that.
yes. Okay. For D1. Okay, we have 2 comments for item D1, which is communications to the board, public comment for non-agenda items. And so by the time these 2 speakers are done, all public comment for items on the agenda must be turned in. Thank you. The first person is James Isles. Thank you. The clock is right over here, and I just ask that you pay attention to the clock too, so I don't have to use this.
I do not believe I'll need the full 3 minutes.
Thank you.
My name is James Isles. I am a resident of Tam Valley. I have a just shy of 1 week 5-year-old entering the school system next year. And like everyone else that has done this, we went through the proper channels of showing that we live here and all the other things. And, we had our first and second choices of schools. And I know there's 5 right now, and we live right next to Tam Valley. In fact, so close I have to drive by it every time I leave my house. I did not get my son into Tam Valley. I did not get my son into Old Mill or Park or any school on the way. We got into Strawberry, geographically the farthest away school that could possibly be picked. I would want to send my son to a school that is nearby. He has friends nearby. He knows the parks nearby. I would love, last session, you had people talking about riding bikes. I would love for my son to ride his bike to school. That will never happen at Strawberry. So we call the register and to try and figure out what the process is. Well, I say, well, you put yourself on a wait list and trust the process. And I believe in trust, but I believe in trust but verify. And what I've discovered is the process is entirely opaque, mainly to serve this organization and not the actual students or their families. You do not publish the wait list length. You do not publish where your son or daughter is on that wait list. So you have no choice in where you can send your kid as far as the list. Because if the list to Tam Valley is what I believe to be 14 or more, and this is based off anecdote because I cannot get the actual number, I would probably be better off putting him on a list for Old Mill or Park or Edna. But I don't know that. I don't have that information and I cannot get it. If my son is 14th on that list and not first or second, I would also make a different choice. You want to balance your students across the district. I understand that. So do the parents. But by removing that information, you've removed that choice. You do not publish the amount of students that actually get placement based off of their picks, which is that doesn't serve anyone, doesn't serve the families or the students as well. That should be information free to anybody. If you have a great rate, if you're doing 90%, crow about it, but instead there's nothing there. We call and we ask and we just get no information. And so what I've kind of discovered, and it's not too surprising, is that the placement system serves to fulfill the needs of the organization first and the families and kids second. Kids are placed based off of the capacity that has been planned for various schools, not on their geographical location or where they would prefer to go. From my understanding right now, and I know of at least 6 families that want to go to Tam Valley that are on that wait list, and I've heard anecdotally is 14, that is nearly half a class. And there's 3 kindergartners at Edmund McGuire, there's 2 at Strawberry. Moving one of those over to Tam Valley or adding one to Tam Valley doesn't seem like a terrible idea. If there's low demand to go to one of these other schools, there's no reason why you can't move a kindergarten class to another part of the district.
You surprised yourself.
Yes.
Thank you. And online, we have Daisy Crosswell.
Hi
Daisy-
there.
Oh, thank you. Hi. We have 3 minutes. I think the timer shows up on Zoom, right? Thank you. Daisy.
Yes. Thank you. I also had the same issue that James did last year, so want to reiterate all of his points are really important ones. I'm addressing you today about a different issue. I'm a Park School mom of 3 kids. I have a current TK, kinder, and 3rd grader. And TK overall was a pretty rough year at Park with a lot of teacher turnover. We had subs for many weeks of the year. And just in general, the scheduling for specialists was really less than optimal for their age. On the other hand, kindergarten was another story. Kindergarten for my son went really, really well. We had Mrs. Marion Forestier, who was not new to the district, but new to Park School. And she was fabulous, just a wonderful teacher, managing a lot of high energy boys, including my son. So we were looking really forward to the continuity of that teacher, Mrs. Forestier, next year for my current TKer, as he was going to be a rising kindergartner in the fall. We had hoped that he would have an experienced Park teacher and one that knew our family. And so we were pretty shocked last week to find out that Mrs. Forestier, our beloved kindergarten teacher, was not invited back and had been let go back in February. When I asked her, as well as our principal, Aubrey, and the superintendent, what had happened or why had she been let go, there was no information and really a lack of clarity, even to Mrs. Forestier herself. She loved her job and had built a real connection with the kids, with the other families, and with the other kindergarten teacher as well. She was let go in February and yet expected to continue on for the next 4 months with a positive attitude and managing a busy classroom of 23 students, knowing that she was not wanted at the school any longer. And again, with no answer for why. There was no parent feedback requested at any time. She was a brand new teacher. And it made me feel that what the parents have to say about who teaches our kids really doesn't matter. It's that I have no idea what went into the decision. And I understand that in quotes, these are the rules in terms of the hiring and firing for the school district. But I just felt like it was important for me to share with you, the board, just how badly that really felt from a parent's perspective. It felt secretive. It felt like the parents and the kids' voices don't matter at all. And I think it was ultimately the complete wrong choice for the school. There's many parents on our WhatsApp text thread that were completely shocked and upset by the decision, and the lack of any kind of information, even to her, the person, just felt not the way that was really the highest integrity way to run a school. So I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to the next item E, which is
Consent agenda.
approval of consent agenda. Before we approve the consent agenda, are there any items that anyone needs to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
so moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
All right, thank you.
Can I take a quick pause?
Yes, and we're gonna have a quick pause and introduce.
Ordinarily, when we do hiring, we have the opportunity to prepare ourselves. We are in a position right now where we are late in the year, and I wanted to make sure that the hire was complete before I made a public announcement. So, Sarah, would you just come here briefly? This is Sarah McKenna, and the board just approved her in the consent agenda as the next principal at Middle Valley Middle School. So wanted to introduce her to everyone. She has been here since March as an interim principal. So welcome, Sarah. And I don't know if you want to say anything, but I don't want to put you on the spot either, but I'm very happy that we have you and that we are able to maintain the stability for the students that you have initiated this year.
I'm looking forward to next year. I know everybody else is ready to end the year, but now I'm excited.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is student learning and school programs. Oh. Kate Sprague.
Hello,
Hi, Kate. Thank you.
Kate Sprague, Director of Educational Technology and Accountability. And tonight I'm here to do one part of the state's ask around reporting for us as a school district, which is reporting on the local indicators at the same time as we report on the LCAP. So the California School Dashboard local indicators are ways that we, if you go to the next slide, please, are ways that we as a district measure some specific areas that the state does not measure for us. So there are all those state priorities that you'll recall. We've been planning and aligning with our own district and board priorities, and we put those into our LCAP. We also have to put in how we locally measure a number of those priorities. So if you go to the next slide, please. There are state indicators on the left. These are things that the state asks us or manages our data on. We take the data and send it to them. And then there are things on the right that are local indicators: basic services, implementation of state standards, parent and family involvement, school climate, course access, expelled youth, and foster youth. And so our job is to, at this meeting, show you where those priorities are represented in our LCAP for the upcoming year. So for basic conditions of learning, that is covered in LCAP goals 1 and 4. And on the left box there, you'll see a few of the ways that we capture that. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's a snapshot. The second, implementation of state academic standards, is captured in LCAP goal 1. The third, parent and family engagement, is captured in LCAP goal 3. Next slide, please. Thank you. 6, school climate, is captured in LCAP goals 2 and 3. 7, access to a broad course of study, is captured in LCAP goal 1, and other pupil outcomes is captured in LCAP goal 1 as well. And this is just informational. Part of the process of bringing forward the LCAP is to also bring forward the local indicators at the same meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think we're gonna go from there to the approval of the LCAP,
Yep.
which Dr. Kaufman will present.
So as you know from our last meeting, the board is required to approve the annual LCAP following the procedures that we outlined at the May and early June meetings. We're asking for approval of the LCAP and the budget overview for parents, which accompanies that. It is a 3-year LCAP, and it provides a foundation for the work we are going to do in our district.
It also includes the annual update from the final year of this LCAP as well.
Thank you. I think we discussed this at both the 22nd, and I wasn't here last Thursday, but I
Oh,
believe.
that's right.
it's
You
done.
missed it.
I missed it. But I know, so I don't believe we have any questions, but if we do, please, any board questions, trustee questions? No? Okay. In that case, then I would like to call for a motion to approve the LCAP and budget overview for parents.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And
Thank
then-
you. We look forward to the new LCAP for the next 3 years. Thank you. Yes, thank you for all your work. It was,
It-
yeah.
And it starts
we got it
again.
done.
I know.
We have to.
If only it could last a little bit longer than
Right,
3
I
years, huh?
know, it would be great.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then Corey's going to come up again. We went over our budget pretty extensively at the last meeting. I think Corey's going to share some responses to some questions that were asked at the last board meeting so that we can kind of all be on the same page. Then we're asking for board approval of the district budget.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Yeah, I wanted to address a couple questions that were brought up by trustees last meeting, just to make sure that we had those answers. And if anybody would like further information, they would know where to go as well. So the first question I want to address was brought up by trustee Cernsich Hodge from last meeting, and it was regarding the difference of, if you recall, when we were budgeting our revenues, the parcel taxes, we estimated to go up 4.55% in 24-25, and then 3.5% in those following years. And the question came up, what was that delta if we were to budget at 4.5% in those following years, which was more consistent with historical data that was presented by Scott Siegel in the prior meeting. If that were done in 25, 26, the increase would be about 313,000. It's just shy, $312,800 some dollars, something along those lines. So about $313,000 increase in revenues for that year. And then if we carried that on to the subsequent year, which would be the 26, 27 year, it would be $338,000 increase to revenues. So it does kind of whittle away at that deficit a little bit. So when we go to revise the budget in September, as we talked about last week, that is something that we can include. And if the board wishes, it wouldn't be difficult to include it both ways, where we have the 3.5% and the 4.5% to kind of see what that difference is. The other question was brought up by trustee Yu regarding the small increase in revenue in the multi-year projections from 2024-25 to 2025-26. The increase in revenues from 2025-26 to 2026-27 was more consistent with what we'd see with our parcel tax increase, as well as the increase to property taxes. In going back through to look at that, there are quite a few changes. So just to kind of highlight a couple, the increase in the property taxes is the equivalent of just over $1 million, $1,042,000. The increase to the 5% increase to parcel tax is a $615,000 increase. So one would assume that we would see more along the lines of a $1.6 million increase in revenues, which I believe is what trustee Yu was alluding to, is how do we go from what should be a $1.6 million increase to what was the equivalent of about $275,000 increase is what it was. Couple of things. One of those items is that because our cash balance is coming down, there is a decrease of about a little over $100,000 in interest that we would see from our money, our funds sitting in the bank. And then also for the arts music block grant, it was one-time money that we received $832,000. That gets backed out. And so that takes half of that $1.6 million away. But there was another change of a little over $500,000 that during the budgeting process, it was backed out and should not have been. So that was something that came to light that was very important. So the delta will be more along the lines of a $700,000 or $800,000 increase, not quite the 1.6 million you would assume. And I have a detailed, if anybody in the community or trustees, I'll send it to all the trustees as well, a breakdown of every little change by every single account that we have that I can make readily available to the revenues that show what that change is. So I just wanted to address those in public, and then if there's any other additional questions that have come about since last week, I'd be happy to answer them. And outside of that, we would recommend approval with the idea that we will be revisiting this in an September timeframe when we do unaudited actuals.
Sorry, I'm making a note. Thank you, Corey. So we need to vote on this, but I wanted to see if there's any board questions. I know this, again.
Thank
was
you,
talked
Corey,
about
for
last
answering those
Thursday.
questions from last week.
No problem.
Anything from So I do have just one comment. I know that when Scott Siegel was here at the May meeting, he presented and he talked about, and you talked about making a minimum percentage reserve
Mhm.
as a board policy. So I don't know exactly what that number is right now, but it's something we want to really kind of push forward and see that maybe that kind of line item is included in future.
Yeah, we will,
Documentation.
the board will have to approve on a minimum reserve policy. So when we start our budget advisory committee work this fall, my anticipation is that agreement on a minimum reserve will be one of the top priorities for us because again, absent a minimum reserve, it's difficult to plan a budget. So
Yes.
that will be something, once we remedy the deficit, we'll need to look at that as well.
Okay.
It's much easier to work backwards from that if we're going to eliminate that deficit spending, it's easier to have a target to work backwards from
Right,
to see where
right.
we need to end up.
Right.
Right.
In education, it's called backwards planning.
Right.
There we go.
It's a really good strategy in
There you
the
go.
ed space.
You and Jay McTagg.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Then I would like to ask for a motion to approve the budget for 2024-2025.
So moved.
Second.
All, this isn't roll call, is it?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next two things are roll call, then.
Right.
Okay, go
So-
ahead, Corey.
Okay, the next one that you have in front of you is a resolution that comes before the board at the same time every year. It's called the TAN, Tax Anticipation Note. What it does, it allows the district to borrow funds during the year from the Marin County Treasury. Because property taxes only come in twice a year, cash flow ebbs and flows with that. So typically in your end of November, December timeframe, you're going to start to run low on cash as those taxes come in. And then again, later on in the year, I don't believe from what I've seen in the prior years, we have had to borrow funds, but it's better to do this, and most districts do this in anticipation so that in an emergency, we wouldn't have to go and pass the resolution and go to borrow those funds. Everything is already set up to do so if need be. And it's just a temporary loan until the property taxes were to come in.
Thank you. So could I get a motion to approve resolution 14-2324 tax anticipation note?
So moved.
Oh, oops. Okay, someone's got a second.
I'll be second.
Okay, thank you. Now this is a roll call vote. So trustee Cernsa Chaj,
Aye.
trustee Katz,
Aye.
and I'm trustee Nakatani, and I'm an aye. Thank you. Passes. And then we're going to go into resolution 15.
Okay, again, this is an annual resolution that comes before the board at this time. It runs in line with the budget. We are required to, the EPA or Education Protection Account, it was passed in 2012, and that increased sales tax throughout the state and also increased income tax on high earners. In 2016, it went to vote again, and the sales tax increase stopped at that time, but the increase to income taxes for high earners continued on. The funds that are produced from that tax are part of this account, and we're budgeted to receive $449,000 this coming year. And what this does is outline what we are intending to do with those funds. It has to be done at a public meeting, and additionally, it has to be spent on instruction. So it can't be spent on administrative salaries or anything related to administration. So this is all spent on instruction, primarily our teachers. And so it's outlined there's two attachments here. One is the resolution, and then one is how it's budgeted for the year, that $449,000, and staff would recommend approval as presented.
Thank you. Any questions? Could I get a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Roll call vote, trustee Cernsa Chaj,
Aye.
trustee Katz,
Aye.
and I'm trustee Nakatani, and I'm an aye, and the motion passes. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we will move on to facilities. We have three parts to facilities. We've got a modernization project update, which is information only. There's no vote. Then we have approval of project assignment number 5, which is to discuss or not, sorry, the feasibility study of the district office move, because we have taken it out of the program of the middle school. And then the third thing is approval of schematic design for Strawberry and Tam Valley.
Start with their presentation, then we have for public comment on J.1, and then board deliberation, and then we have one public comment on J.3.
Okay. Um,
And then.
but there's no deliberation on this because we're not voting on
Right,
anything.
but any board questions?
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you for that procedure,
know.
because I forget. It's easy.
too.
It's really easy to get confused. Hi, welcome. Thank you. Go ahead. Julio.
Thank you. Julio Arroyo, Director of Maintenance Operations and Safety for the Mill Valley School District. With me tonight, representing AECOM is Brent Mitchell, our Principal in Charge, and Sandrine Hitchcock, Program Manager for Measure G, as well as also tonight is for our third item is Ted Felix. Ted is with JKAE. They are our architects for Strawberry and Tam Valley Elementary for our modernization projects. Next slide, please. So tonight we're gonna have an overview of the middle school environmental process. We tried to put together more simplified version of the timeline and then another timeline to look at really the project. And as we build out for the next year, that we're going to show to the board. And then our intent is to put that on the website and also communicate it to the public as well. And then we will also be reviewing our district office study proposal that we have that we're requesting approval for. And I'll go into that a little bit more in detail when we get to that item. And then Ted will go over also Tam Valley and Strawberry Point and the schematic design approval request. So I'm going to hand it off to Sandrine. So up first to talk about our CEQA and DTSC anticipated timeline, the video we put together.
Thank you. So as Julio mentioned before, as you know, we've been presenting information on timeline.
Julio's. It's scratchy.
It's not my voice. So over the last few months, we've been presenting timelines in different formats about the CEQA process, DTSC, CGS, et cetera. So what we're trying to do here is really simplify that timeline.
No, it's not working.
Not working either. Maybe both together. Okay. So what we're trying to do is simplify. Is that better? Great. So we try to simplify a little bit the timeline and make it a little more digestible. And as Julio mentioned, this is really a little video, right? And everybody will be allowed or able to pause and read what is in there and not have to go back to the board meeting recordings or presentations, which might be difficult for some people. But really the intent is to show two agencies' processes, right? DTSC and CEQA that run in parallel. And it's mostly focused on the environmental aspect of the work we have to do. Of course, there are many other agencies involved, but again, this is just focused on those two. We can get started if you want. I think it's about 2.5, 3 minutes, and there's no sound. But essentially, that's what I was just saying. Essentially focused on two-state processes through DTSC and CEQA. And the next part will show essentially each step starting with DTSC. So as you know, back in November, we've reviewed all the data that was available. Nino and Moore came to the board in January to present their findings. That was the first phase. The next step in the process, and again, all this is mandated by law. Next step was for the school district to enter into an agreement with DTSC, which was done. And right now, what we're doing, we've been working on is the scoping, essentially trying to figure out based on the data we have, what needs to be done. And a work plan is being put together, which was submitted to the DTSC in May, proposing what needs to be done for the project and for the site. So we're really about to hear back from DTSC on that work plan at this point. And next will be during the summer after everybody's gone, we'll do the field work, essentially taking samples, doing an assessment on site. And Nino and Moore will essentially write a report based on those findings that we will present to the board and that they will submit to DTSC with their recommendations on remediation. After that, obviously, the DTSC would provide approval or additional comments. There could be additional comments. And then the final step will be the implementation by the board, ratifying the report and the work happening during construction. The second, and again, everybody will be allowed to pause and read the text. I'm just narrating right now, but this CEQA running in parallel and the DTSC report will be included in the CEQA report, so it's part of it. We are working on the project description and the draft EIR at this point. We are planning on issuing the notice of preparation on Friday, which is essentially telling the public that we are intending to submit an environmental impact report and that we welcome any comments on the content of that report. After we submit the report to DTSC, there will be a 45-day public review period for all agencies and the public. And then the last round will be the final report incorporating any comments and finally approval of the report. So again, try to simplify as much as we could the process. And again, that will be available at on the website, on the district's website. So anybody can go there and pause. And if there are any additional questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. Is that
So the next item that Julio mentioned, it's just a little flyer at this point that we put together, and it's really like high level at this point. We're really in the process of figuring out sequencing of all the parts of the project. So we will provide updates and more detail as we move forward and get more information from the team. But essentially, we just wanted to outline when people are going to move and when things are going to start. So as we mentioned earlier, we have a next item related to the district's office relocation. So in June, hopefully in June of 2025, everybody will go on summer break and the district's office will move. And so everybody will need to pack at some point and we'll start construction on the interim housing. And then as we're done, everybody would come back. And again, there would be a second move when we're done with the main project. So again, very high level timeline at this point. And we'll keep providing updates as we progress.
And the goal is to put this also on the district's website as well.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Trustee Katz, yes. please.
Previously in the timelines that were shared, it was around December, January of 2025 that interim housing was going to start development. So what's changed since then? And I guess in a positive way, there's less happening during the course of the school year, which is great for students. But why the change?
Thank you for asking, because someone asked at the community meeting on Monday, and I didn't recall that schedule, but since the beginning, since last year, mid last year, we came up with a schedule that we thought was okay, the basis, right, for moving forward with all consultants, the contractor, etc. As we move forward, we get more detail from the contractor, the architect, more input from everybody. And my bad, I didn't update this one schedule, so I did this time. But again, schedules are meant to evolve, so things are going to change a little bit. There might be some work happening during the spring break, or we don't know yet. But we're really in the process right now, at looking at all the details, how we can do that work. Most of the work would happen during the summer, but it's possible there might be some activities during the breaks before the summer. So again, my apology if I didn't update that one schedule. The person was correct. But right now, the intent is mostly construction for the interim housing during the summer.
Which again is great if there's less impact during the course of a school year in
Mhm.
terms of student learning. That's
That's
positive.
our goal, as
Yeah.
much as we can.
Thank you.
And just to kind of follow that up, we are on schedule. We have not
Yes.
had schedule slip and we have not.
There was a question on Monday also whether or not we were behind schedule. The answer is no, we are on schedule. The original schedule had about 3-4 months float, like, and we delayed a little bit the decisions from we were intending by November to have a decision on the middle school. It moved to March. That's why it was so important to make that decision in March, because we were running out of that float time. So we are on schedule at this point in time.
Okay, I'm going to hold other questions until they're done and then we're going to take public comment because I'm doing this out of order.
And may we ask questions now on what we've seen, or
No, we're
we're
going
going
to
to hold?
we're going to do public comment.
Typically, we let them finish their presentation, have the public that wants to comment so that
Got
the
it.
board is fully
Right,
informed when they
okay.
deliberate on what the concerns
Mhm.
or questions that the community has are.
Okay, so please continue.
That's the final slide. for them.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Okay, so we now
We
have.
will go into public comment.
Public.
We have 4 speakers, so 3 minutes each is fine. The first is Juliet Hart. So again, I'm just going to introduce yourself. And please pay attention to this 3-minute clock. I'll be paying attention to.
And can we make sure that that mic is live? Because there is someone behind the curtain that is doing a great job of turning mics up. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Can we turn that mic up? Can we turn that mic up?
Are we on? No, yes? Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to read because I have a lot to say. Thank you so much for your work on this and your time and the time to speak today. My name is Dr. Juliet Hart. As you know, I have a PhD in oceanography and specialize on sea level rise and adaptation planning throughout California. Today, I want to address several comments we heard at the community meeting on Monday and at the last board meeting so that we can correct the record. Just to start, there's a perception that some of us are new to this conversation, but a lot of us really have been here for a long time. It was a little bit of a tone that, you all were repeating things, which we've heard, but we really were just trying to get clarification. I have here the stack of emails that I've been sending. So this has been an ongoing process. I first reached out to Dr. Kaufman on October 1st, 2023. I had a lovely conversation with Julio in February. Took 4 months to get that conversation. Nonetheless, I was able to have it. Trustee Yu, who's not here, was asked last week about what happens when it floods and where does it flood, since she does not currently have a student here. The response was that the flooding only occurs at the drop-off point by the school. So I brought my science fair poster here with photos of pictures that I've taken when it floods. And so you can see from that it floods at the drop-off location, along the bridge and drainage channel, and along the side where kids park their bikes. My daughter once saw one of her more rambunctious friends fall into that water, and that is the same water that has the leakage of the old dump, which are shown in the pictures in the center panel. Last week and Monday, there was discussion of the CEQA sampling that will occur this summer. We have the documentation from prior analyses at the community center that says that gas exchange may be exacerbated during rain or high groundwater levels. That quote is now on my science fair poster. If CEQA sampling is done during the summer as currently planned, the testing will not accurately reflect the potential for gas release that could occur during the rainy season and when groundwater tables are high, both of which happen when the kids are in school. If construction is ongoing and the old dump material is disturbed, it's very possible that these toxic fumes will impact the workers and our children. And this is the one that breaks my heart the most. So much time I have. At Monday's meeting, the architect from Leonakis boasted about being able to build the school at high elevation and joked, as if it were funny, that all the roads surrounding the school would be flooded. To which several responded that it's not MBSD's responsibility to address sea level rise flooding, that it needs to be a community decision. Yes, 100% yes. And I nodded it vigorously in that moment. That's what we've been asking for. MVMS is not the only kid on the block. The city's community center, the neighborhood on Sycamore, SASM, we all need to work together to address this holistically, not one parcel at a time. One parcel's decision leads to impacts for all the others and will only drive up future costs that we, the taxpayers, will bear. I offer here again, pro bono, to help develop a proposal to the Ocean Protection Council to do holistic sea level rise planning for this area. They can fund up to $1 million. The city has actually taken me up on this, but you have not. We all need to rise above lest we drown in well-intended, but unfortunately misguided decision-making. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. And then next we have Amy Cruz.
Hello, I am Amy Cruz. It's my first time at a board meeting, and firstly, I love the school district and have I'm very thankful for all of you who show up and do all this good work. I'm a parent of an Old Mill School, a rising third grader and fifth grader, and I'm a little nervous. And I'm concerned about rebuilding on the existing site. I believe I also speak for my kid's late father when I say we don't feel the existing plan is safe for kids. This topic makes me feel very nauseous, which tells me I should surely speak up. I'm concerned about the airborne contamination from the treatment plant, the risk of methane explosion I heard about from the dump below, and the dump, I'm concerned about the dump materials coming up, with the dump materials resurfacing into the water channels, not resurfacing, but coming up into the water channels that are so close and so integral to this whole campus. And though I don't have kids that go here yet, we are on campus for orchestra and different reasons like that. Lastly, the plan where the kids are going to be taught in the portables right here in the parking lot next to the construction feels like it will be very distracting for kids of all types of learning types, but especially kids who have trouble focusing as it is. I think that will be wildly distracting, along with the smell and the unsafe stuff in the air. Again, so thank you all for being here and doing all the hard work all these years. And thank you for the parents who have kids graduating tomorrow and are coming anyway. And thank you for doing all the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Dana Desmond.
Hi, I've not attended a board meeting myself either, and I'm so happy to see another mom friend of mine here. Thank you for all of your work, and thank you to all of you for the hard work that you're doing also on behalf of the school district. I mentioned this on Monday. I do not envy the position that all of you are in to try to solve the very big challenges associated with this specific site environmentally. I'm a developer. I understand the challenges associated with particularly sites in California. Most every site that we develop has some kind of environmental issue. And I believe that the state agencies are capable of making the appropriate recommendations to mitigate those issues. My specific concerns are more with the temporary plan to house students on site during the construction. If we can focus our energy away from the environmental concerns, which are very significant, but if we can put our trust in the state agencies and the experts that the district has engaged to solve and mitigate those issues, I'd like to believe that that is possible. But the temporary solution, I believe, is woefully inadequate for the children that are going to be learning adjacent a construction zone. My daughter, my two daughters, rising fourth and rising sixth graders. And one of my kids has already a hard time focusing, and her outdoor time is very important for her to recharge, get out energy. And I can only imagine her trying to leave her portable classroom and be surrounded with the noise of the construction zone adjacent. I also think that the the water issues, the flooding issues, while we can lift the campus, I think that we need to address the whole community, as Juliet was saying. But I really think that we should focus our energy on figuring out so that we don't miss the opportunity to build our wonderful new school. And assuming this is the appropriate site, what are we going to do that is better than the temporary solution? And should we re-explore some other alternatives that may have been pushed aside previously for various reasons? I just want to say, I know there's archaeological significant artifacts. We own commercial real estate. We've mitigated them myself, my family, Miwok Indian Bones. It's possible. We can do it. And the amount of money that the district is spending on the temporary housing, $15 million, is not insignificant. So let's make sure that we're spending that money in the right way. I am here to be, an advocate and a resource if
Thank you.
wish.
And our last speaker is Susan Dawson.
Hi, I'm Susan Dawson. I have a rising fifth grader and rising second grader at Old Mill School. I'm here completely in my personal capacity, but just to note, I'm also the PTA president at Old Mill School. Just to say that I love our schools. I've been very involved. And in fact, I really want to stay involved in our schools and present. I came to the community meeting earlier this week, hoping for reassurance that this is going to be a continued viable location for our family. And I try to be a positive person, but I came away very alarmed, to be perfectly honest. Just to restate what I heard, that the current plan for especially the interim housing is to locate our students for 2 years on a site that is too small to meet the Department of Education minimums, bordered by a waste treatment plant that smells, a skate park, a construction site, a creek prone to flooding, all atop a former landfill Superfund site that is also in a liquefaction zone and a floodplain with methane underneath. And the only thing dividing our children from that demolition and construction site will be a covered chain link fence. There are also traffic safety concerns and noise concerns for our kids trying to learn in that environment. I thought these had already been, the environmental concerns had already been fully explored and resolved. But now I understand that CEQA is still forthcoming, and that soil testing specific, we've looked at old tests, but there has been no new bores drilled. All of this very much surprised me. So we're assured that there's going to be a mitigation plan with a lot, and that would include things like air quality monitoring with alarms that might be going off. So there are children on this too small campus behind a chain link fence with alarms going off. And that workers, of course, will need to be protected under OSHA. But the workers, of course, can wear a mask, and our children eating lunch shouldn't be asked to wear a mask when they're out playing, especially that this is the generation impacted by COVID, who have already gone through a lot of masking. And so I want to acknowledge, as somebody who's done public service roles through PTA, this is really hard, what you're doing here. We understand, and it is, but it's something that we need to find a solution. We cannot lose the bond funds. We do absolutely need a new middle school. But is this really the best we can do, particularly for the interim housing? Hoping for exploration of alternatives, weighing all of that against a few things that seem to be problems at Edna. Traffic flows manageable, archaeological concerns manageable, disruption of Edna students who will themselves become middle schoolers. So we're all a community. Please reconsider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes public comment on item J1. So now we will move to any further board questions.
So I am interested in if there's, in part of our conversation, if there's any information either from Dr. Kaufman or from Trustee Nakatani, as I understand you were at that community meeting, which I was not, if there's any additional information that can be shared, shared by you at this time.
I'll let Dr. Kaufman speak.
Yeah, I think in essence, we've gone over the CEQA timeline. I think part of what we presented tonight was an effort to clarify some of the questions. And we have, obviously, we're very aware of the concerns that the parallel process, for lack of a better term, of, pre-construction planning and CEQA are I'm assuming, I'm making an inference based on comments that have been made, perhaps different than what happens in residential work, but in our work, we have the one site, it's the only site we have, and we need to evaluate that ongoing as we consider moving forward. We have, as a board, acted and made the decision that we will not be building on Edna, and I think we have evaluated that option sufficiently and recognize the impacts and the delays and the additional costs of that option are a deterrent to the overall success of our project. Again, we've considered many options and we'll continue to consider them. I think one of the main questions the community has is, let's say that we find out that there are egregious concerns that, we all of a sudden can't build. We've stated that from what we have currently, from the work that we've got underway, from the expertise of the individuals who we've brought forward who have worked on prior landfill sites, we don't believe any of those things are going to be concerns that are unmitigatable. We certainly don't believe we would place children at risk or harm for any reason. However, if we ended up in a situation where things were unmitigatable, we would not build. We would have to think of another plan. And we have considered many other plans along the way, as you know, including combining sites, including placing children, distributing them across the district. And from an educational perspective, I think we as a governance team have established that it is more detrimental to our children to be spread out in single self-contained models of basically continued elementary school programs disjointed across the district than it is to keep them together and prepare them for high school in the manner in which most middle schools do. So I think the disruption to children academically is far more egregious if we were to return to a self-contained and distributed 6th, 7th, and 8th grade model where children were at different grade levels at different sites.
Thank you, Dr. Kaufman.
Dr. Nakatani, did you?
Doctor, I'm not a doctor.
Oh, excuse me.
She could be.
I don't want to go to school that long.
You are Miss Serena.
She's an architect.
No, I was in the audience. I did not take copious notes. I just listened the whole time, and I would reiterate, I don't really have a lot to add from what Dr. Kaufman said about it. One thing that's clear though is I believe the community forums are very helpful because it gives the chance for the community to have a real dialogue back and forth, because as you know, in a board setting, we can't do that. We just can't engage in things off topic, off of our agenda. And I think I saw a note, bringing Nuno and Moore forward at the right appropriate time to one of those community meetings where they can be there as the professionals in that arena to answer the questions, I think will be very, very helpful. So that's something I think we should definitely do. I think that's it for that.
Okay, so thank you. So I wanted to just see if we can't learn from the comments that are made and incorporate them along this journey, because if anybody's done any remodel or tear down, you know that it never goes the way you think, and you have to have patience. And we do have, though, a serious responsibility to make sure that public funds are used appropriately in a timely fashion. So thank you for all your comments of support, because we're going to continue to need that during this process, because we've got a lot of responsibility to a lot of different constituents. But at the core of that is our children. So with that, flooding is a concern. Flooding's a larger concern. So I'm gonna hold that for a moment. But the notion that there could be some kind of unforeseen risk that's there, that's lurking, that CEQA won't see because they won't be here when it comes out. can you speak to, because that's real in all sites, meaning, rainy season, release of fumes, makes sense to me, even though I'm not a scientist. So can you speak to how we've got a highly educated, population that we just want to make sure that within, reality, we can address some of these, issues as they move along and maybe, pivot. So can you maybe speak to that point?
Is it working?
It's working.
Specifically about, and I actually took notes about the rainy season and methane, and you can trust that I will call Nino and more tomorrow and ask about it. But I would trust that I can't speak for them. I'm not the expert on environmental engineering, but we will definitely talk to them about it and make sure they address any questions we hear from the community.
Great. So Flint, what's the gentleman's name who was here with Flint?
Mark?
Ryan, Mark.
Okay, the gentleman who spoke about, hey, my crews are secondary to the kids, but no one's going to be put in a dangerous situation. Like, it's just not going to happen. Can you speak to that in terms of how they, and I think that it might be helpful if maybe Flint can share with us something we can put on the website so people can see. This is not the first rodeo. So how do you mitigate these things that have happened before? And maybe with visuals or ways that people can understand.
Okay, so actually following the meeting on Monday, we mentioned that during the meeting that we were thinking maybe the next community meeting, we would bring Flint and Inyo and more to answer those questions more in details, because I think it is time. It is our intent really to have them come up with a presentation and actual facts and not just statement. Safety is the number one concern. We have discussed that this week already with them, and it's in the works to have those team members come and answer questions in more details.
And part of the process that we wanted to, I think what we've been trying to do is to go diligently through the timeline, explain the different processes that we're going to go to. And we get to a point where, well, once we need the data to be able to show the community, say, this is the report, these are the items that have been brought forward from the environmental process. These are the solutions we're putting in place, and have that open dialogue as well with our partners of the general construction as well and architecture to come in and talk about the different aspects of how we're going to mitigate. And so that's where we're looking in the fall to be able to bring that together. We also have a meeting in July where we will be publicizing around the process around CEQA, and it's more of a where we're engaging the city, and it's just more about the process of the information that we're going to be delving into, but that'll be an opportunity also that we'll share with the public. It'll be in the summer, but we'll also make it available in the fall when folks come back for school. So there'll be two opportunities where we'll engage Nino and Warren.
Great. Yeah, I think that I'm hearing, and appreciate people's concern around children's safety. I would assume also that our Mill Valley Teachers Association would be concerned, and so would our CSEA would be concerned. And I'm concerned. I mean, I don't want to walk up on a site where, I have allergies and I have asthma in the past that, so I think just to provide, some data that I can refer back to on the website and share with others would be super helpful. And then lastly is this, and I do see this issue with flooding, and we all know because we see it with king tides as I try to get out of my home that's near Tam Valley and, use that upper road as the lower road's getting more and more flooded. I would, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm encouraged to hear that there is some, maybe our city is looking into this, and OSHA and, sea level protection and all that. I think it makes a lot of sense that we be involved in that. And I just don't know personally how I can help, but would love to see emails related to how we might be stewards of a larger issue that will impact hopefully our children who stay and are able to live in Mill Valley as they grow up and graduate college. And it becomes a real issue for them and their own middle school students within the next 20, 30, 40 years or so on. So I just wanted to say, I thought that was encouraging and hope that we can create legs on that. And then lastly, I do remember that, and I'm sorry, I'm just so bad with names, but the gentleman who was here last week, and he shared a map and it showed that the flooding does go from that corner kind of, it's going to go all the way, it's going all the way up in a band, right? And missing where we're building. So maybe that visual would be great to have on our website as well. Did you all remember that visual?
It
You
was,
weren't here. Do you remember that, Natalie?
I mean, and I believe Ms. Hart was also one to, in the past, share one of those visuals, and Lionakis has shared, so that I think Sycamore Park and coming in from the bay as sea level rises, then this lines kind of an island, if you will.
Yeah, those flood maps have been in previous Lionakis, AECom. Yeah, so they're on a website, and then they're, I've pulled them out from agendas to send to people. So yeah, they are definitely available.
But I guess, Michelle, to your point, I think hearing from the city or the Marin County supervisors, whoever's pulled into addressing the areas where there's flooding and expect to be significantly more. You know, I'm looking at these pictures, and I've been there on those days where I see the Bay Trail, and kids are trying to get to school, riding their bikes through, and their feet get wet as they are submerged under the water. But that is not the school district's jurisdiction, but this is something where, to the previous point made, this is something where we have to be partnering. So I would love potentially at some point, whether it's the city or the supervisors, to have somebody come in and speak to what are they starting to do and work on as it impacts this site, and have a better understanding there, because there are a lot of things that we can't address or we can't control, and it would be helpful to have them speak to that.
Wholeheartedly agree. And I think I've said that myself too, Dr. Kaufman.
Yeah, just a point of information that we did sign on a letter in support of a grant that the city has applied for this work. So while the county is doing it with AECom and has selected AECom to do the sea level rise, the city has worked with a grant, or was applied for a grant, and we signed on in collaboration or support of their work.
Can you repeat what you just said? AECom is also involved. Can you repeat that, please? Just for the record.
You want me to review that?
Well, you're the man.
You go. He's part,
This is
it's
good
an
to know.
overall much larger organization, internationally
Technical
prestigious.
services.
While we do our best to collaborate, we are somewhat siloed, and that engineering department is equal and separate than mine. Although I can inquire, and perhaps that business line lead can speak to it, but they have their own in-house expertise on this, so, and they've been contracted through the county.
Oh, good.
Yeah, sorry.
Probably
This
sit-
short
Probably sit 50 feet from each other and have never met.
Right.
short story is
But I'll bridge that gap.
AECom technical division, technical service,
Services.
technical
Great
services. Yeah, okay, hired by the county to study. sea level
Great.
rise.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. One last comment about this. I love this slide because actually the majority of questions and texts and things that I get in passing is, what's the schedule? So when we, when you go to our district website, and I think there's like usually three, on a desktop at least, there's usually three kind of images. And I think they rotate between like what's happening now kind of thing. I would love if this were one of them almost permanently until the school's done. So it's always in front, and we could just say like, hey, oh, right, plan is to move in this, plan is to, so thank you. This is.
Oh, and I'm sorry, the slide before, it doesn't have dates on it. It has months, but not dates. That'll happen?
I can add 2024.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's kind of just a little bit last year, this year, a little bit next year, right? Or something. Thank you very much. So I think with that, we can move on to item J2, which is agreement with Lionakis to study district office.
Yeah, so tonight we're requesting approval to study for this proposal with Lionakis to study the district office. And so part of what we've been trying to focus on for the middle school is the program needs for the middle school site. And so based off our funding that we were going into the planning of the middle school site, we knew that it was going to be tight. And so part of our plan was not including the district office as we were planning and building out what program was needed for the middle school site. And so therefore, that's why this proposal is coming to you tonight. And so we're looking at 3 options for really it's a district office, it's the kiddo, which is on site here at kiddo, including our district server as well. And so we're looking at what is our temporary option for that, looking at possible lease space, looking at moving to one of our schools where we have open classrooms right now. And then also what is our permanent space if it's different than the temporary move we do. And so that's also looking at those 2 options, as well as Terra Marin, which in 24 months would become available to the district. And so we're going to do some test fits in terms of space needs, our technology needs, and look at those 3 items and then come back to the board with a recommendation.
Any questions? No. Is this where the MDF would be located too?
Yes.
Okay.
This would
Does
be
it
with
matter in
this-
proximity to the other schools if that's central or not? I have no idea how that works. The main distribution frame. No, it doesn't matter. Okay.
And we will engage our tech department. I mean, they have some priorities that they would like, and so we'll try to fit it in with them.
Okay, so it doesn't matter like distance wise, or I didn't know if this, I always think of like home runs for these things for whatever reason in my head, so.
The IDF will be the one.
Okay, okay,
It's really 2 portions. When we're going to look at the tech department portion, is going to be not just the district's office, IT room, but also the middle. It's 2 pieces, right? Are we separating them or not?
okay.
So.
Yeah, I saw the ideas and I mean, my only comment as a trustee is for the 2 years, we might need an interim space, which might be part of the feasibility. Like I just, you know, if we could use space we already own, awesome, because it's free.
Yeah.
That's it. Anything else? So you were looking for motion to approve the agreement with Lionakis for this. So could I get a motion? So moved. Thank you. A second?
Second,
And this is not a roll call vote. No, all in favor?
aye.
Aye, and thank you. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And we will move on to item J3, which is schematic design. Thank you, JKAE.
Thank you. And so before Ted gets,
Yeah.
sorry.
And then just procedurally, we're gonna have them present. We have 1 public comment on the item and then we'll discuss. Thank you. Oh, okay, okay. Okay, we have no public comment. We can go straight into presentation and talking. Thank you.
So our first set of elementary schools that we're planning for the actual construction of these projects in the summer of 2025, busy summer, will be Tam Valley and Strawberry Point. And so with this round of schools within our architect pool, JKAE was selected. And so we started the process, and just to go back a little bit, the projects that were selected for come from our facility master plan that was approved by the school board in about February 2021. And in that facility master plan, we had different priority lists, and our first level, what we call priority 1 projects, are where these projects were chosen from. And so we started with reanalyzing, having JKAE and their team coming in and reestimating, as well as AECOM for those projects. And then we set up the projects and met with different stakeholder groups. We met with the PTA at each of the school sites. We went to a staff meeting, as well as we met with administrators to go over these and just kind of get feedback. And that's what additional feedback you're seeing reflect. And so this is the first pass at these with the schematic design. And so I'll let Ted go into the presentation. Maybe go back.
Hopefully No? Hopefully you guys can all hear me pretty well, or?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. It's been a pleasure working with Julio and with AECOM on this project. And we're gonna be here to kind of walk through what we've done up to schematic at this point. And to get started, I will look at the schedule. So what we did is on March 25th, we started schematic design of the project, and creating the design and the drawing package of that took us up to about May 17th. At that time, we then handed it off to AECOM for review by the project team. And here we are today doing the board meeting and project presentation. Should we proceed into design development, we're going to get started as soon as I believe tomorrow's listed on there. And then creating that, further progressing to design and creating that drawing package for design development will take us through August 9th. At which time, in between, we're going to be having preliminary meetings with Division of State Architect, or DSA, as well as California Department of Education. And those prelim meetings are essentially to go over what we're looking at as proposed scope and get any preliminary feedback from them. After that, on August 12th, we're going to be going back to the design team and having them review the design development set. And then we'll be also submitting our CDE, or California Department of Education, submittal around that time as well. And then we'll come back here for a board presentation and hopefully approval of that on September 12th. Once we finish up design development, we're going to kick right off construction documents. That's going to get started on September 16th, pending approval, or September 13th. And that'll take us all the way through November 8th, at which point we're going to give it back to the design team or the project team for review. And then we'll come again to the board meeting on December 16th for approval. In the meantime, we are going to be submitting for Division of State Architect, or DSA, submittal around November 11th. Now, the DSA review process is going to take roughly about 6 months. So it's going to take us to May 9th in 2025. And from there, we're hopefully going to have construction June 2025 through August 2025 over the summer.
And just as a reminder, this is also through the lease back process. So we also have our general contractor who's on board with us, GCCI, and they've been helping us through this process as well.
So on this slide, we're going to review the project scope for Strawberry Point. Item number 1 is path travel upgrades. So this is just kind of an assessment of going out to the site with our civil engineer team, and just kind of assessing any areas that we notice that are not up to current state code. Whether it's student drop-off area, I believe is one of the locations that we noticed that needs a little bit of work done to make sure that we have the correct grades and clearances required, as well as upgrading the path of travel in and around the outdoor garden area in the southern portion of the site. Number 2 is repairing the curb around the kindergarten play structure, which is noted on item number 2 on the map. When we were out there, the curb was more or less falling apart. The wood chips were kind of spilling out into the walkway area, so we're going to have that repaired as well. Item number 3, the wood retaining wall along the west side of campus. We're going to be replacing that wood wall in kind, in order to kind of just replace something that's coming to the end of its life. Item number 4, replacing the basketball hoop and backboards. Similar to a lot of these items on the list, it's just kind of items that are getting closer to the end of their life or at the end of their lifespan. So just upgrading those to kind of meet modern standards and replace them. Item number 6, replacing all the drinking fountains with new high-low drinking fountains, as well as integrated bottle fillers. This will be something we're doing across the entire campus. So anywhere there's
I think you missed item number 5.
I did, thank you. Item number 5 is our new outdoor learning center, and I'm going to actually hold off on that, and we're going to get to that on the next slide.
Okay.
We'll explain that in more detail. Item number 6, replacing all drinking fountains on campus. This is something we're going to do campus-wide, replacing every drinking fountain with a new high-low dual drinking fountain system with an integrated bottle filler. Item number 7, we're going to be replacing the main electrical switchboard, which is located on the southern portion of campus. There are 2 switchboards on campus. This one is very much at the end of its life and is going to be replaced. Number 8, replacing sprinkler heads. For this, we're just replacing the exterior sprinkler heads, which were noticed to be, once again, nearing the end of life and in need of replacement. And then any interior sprinkler heads that are in need of it, but in general, they were in pretty good shape. And lastly, item number 9, complete the campus fire loop and add any hydrants needed for fire access coverage. We've already met with the fire department and they have given the initial sign off as far as proposed solution that we're putting forward in SD. As far as adding 2 hydrants to allow for the adequate hose reaches around the classrooms. Outdoor learning environment, or as we're calling it, the OLE. The outdoor learning environment is an opportunity to create an outdoor classroom environment for students on campus. Integrated within the existing garden space that currently sits at Strawberry, it provides an opportunity for not only expanding the current garden program that is on campus, but also provide a location for other teachers such as math and reading to be able to take a class out if it's open and be able to read underneath the trees, or have whiteboards on underneath the shelter in order to teach a math or a science class out there as well. So what's included in this is a 24 feet by 24 feet shade structure, enclosed on 2 sides with walls and then open on the other 2. On the walls, we're including whiteboard space, sink and lockable stainless steel cabinets for security reasons. And then also we have a lockable closet for storage needs. And then as far as what else we're including in the scope is a outdoor learning circle for a place that teachers could take their kids on a beautiful day. And then general upgrades to the garden area, which will be required through the process, primarily access in and out of the garden from an accessibility standpoint. And then also repairing and replacing some of the existing planter beds. We do need to have a minimum requirement of those planter beds accessible and along the accessible path. So we'll be replacing those. And after getting feedback through the initial round of schematic design, we're going to look at ways to possibly preserve some of the existing features on site as well.
So before we move to Tam Valley, do we have any questions on Strawberry Point, or did we want to just proceed with Tam Valley?
Proceed. and
Okay.
just Follow our protocol.
Okay.
Tam Valley. A lot of this stuff is going to be familiar. Number 1, path to travel upgrades. We have identified a few areas, both at the student drop-off location in the front, as well at actually 2 parts of the student drop-off location that are in need of upgrade to meet current code, as well as looking at upgrading the path of travel from the main classroom campus area out to the student garden area, which will be the proposed location for the outdoor learning environment, which again, I'll get to on the next page. Number 2, the parking area will be restriped to meet current code. This specifically applies to the area where we have the accessible stalls, which currently is not meeting current code as far as how the striping dimensions are. So we're just going to be restriping that and then restriping the accessible path into the campus from there. Item number 3, general asphalt repair in the parking and play area on campus. So this kind of takes into scope all of the outdoor play where we have all the existing striping currently. We're going to be just doing general asphalt repair there, as well as a new kind of play area concept that our landscape architect is going to be working with the district and the staff to come up with some sort of a design for what's going to be included in there. Item number 4, new kindergarten play structure. The current kindergarten play structure is going to be removed and is going to be replaced with a new modern play structure back there. Item number 5, restriping the asphalt play area. I mentioned this with item number 3, but once again, we're going to be restriping the play area with a new concept with feedback from staff as well as our landscape architect who specializes in fun stuff like this. Item number 6, repair or replace basketball hoops and backboards. Same scope here as Strawberry. Item number 7, outdoor learning environment. We'll get into that more on the next page. Item number 8, replace all drinking fountains with new high-low drinking fountains with integrated bottle fillers, similar to Strawberry. Item number 9, replacing all partitions and restrooms with phenolic panels. This is something that we identified when we were there on campus doing our initial site assessment. Bathroom upgrades were included within the priority 1 of the master plan. So as we were going around, we noticed that a few of the partition panels in the restrooms were rusting over or a little bit decayed and towards the end of their life. So we're going to be replacing all of the partition panels with a new composite material. Item number 10, replace lavatories nearing the end of life. Similar to the partition panels, we noticed that a few labs were reaching the end of their life, so we're going to be replacing those. Item 11, replacing sprinkler heads. Again, similar to Strawberry, we noticed during the site assessment walk that the exterior sprinklers were decaying and towards the end of their life. So we're going to be replacing those as well as any interior ones in need of it. But overall, again, the interiors were in pretty good shape. And item number 12, repair the fire riser. This happens in the front of the campus, close to the drop-off zone. There's an existing kind of leak on a fire riser. It's nothing major, but getting that replaced is part of a priority.
And part of our work that's going to be happening in the fall is to re-engage staff around the outdoor learning, as well as like Ted was saying, around the lines and the playground lines, re-engaging the admin staff and most likely students around what they would like to see around the playground. And then also for the actual play structure, we've had a process where we've engaged in previous playground replacements, ITAB, making sure that we're getting some, and ITAB had previously sent us some guidelines, and so I've shared that with JKAE. So and also doing some of the work in process we created with Old Mill is like having our occupational therapists on board and just making sure like every lens was looked at when we're looking at the playground.
Next up is our Tam Valley Outdoor Learning Environment, or again, OLE as we're calling it for short. This design is very similar to the Strawberry one. It is a 24 by 24 foot enclosed classroom area, enclosed on two sides, open on two sides. It includes the whiteboard, the stainless steel lockable cabinets and sink, the lockable storage closet, and the outdoor learning circle, as well as we said with Strawberry, we're going to be upgrading the path of travel, just making sure everything's to code to get from campus out to the outdoor learning center, as well as into the actual shade structure itself and to those required accessible planter boxes as well.
In part of the origination of the outdoor learning, this came from, we did the facility master plan when it was heavy during COVID time, and outdoor learning was a big topic during that time. That's where that's where this priority came out of, as well as looking on the bottom left on both of the concepts is the Edna McGuire one. And so that's what was the basis of kind of like design, looking at as a concept that we were trying to replicate on both sides.
So as far as budget, as part of the approval today, not just design, but cost associated with it. Back last year, when we started looking at the facility master plan and priority one items, the budgets or the updated estimates for Strawberry and Tam were respectively 3.1 million and 3.6 million in hard costs construction. The estimate that was done by JKAE's consultant, cost estimator, that was reviewed by GCCI, the leaseback contractor, as well as AECOM, came in essentially at the same cost. So just wanted to share this with you tonight as part of the approval or request for approval schematic design.
So tonight we're requesting approval from the school board for Strawberry Point and Tam Valley Elementary School modernization schematic design with JKAE. Thank you.
Questions?
I just want to make a comment. I was going to ask the question about Old Mill and lessons learned with the playground development there, and so appreciate you've already addressed that, because it does seem like it was a really successful process. And the big focus in the recommendations from ITAB and the partnerships in the input provided was going beyond just the baseline accessibility and really making sure that from a sensory standpoint and meeting the needs of all students and all learners, that all of that is taken into account. So thank you. And also, I love and appreciate the outdoor learning environments, and I know we're very focused on equity of experience across all of our school sites for students. And so I know at Edna, it's a magical place for students to learn, and part of our science program and tied into art. And so being able to have that at each of the schools is pretty fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions. Fire alarm is part of the work too. Is it an upgrade? Because it wasn't on your list. But
Yes, and sorry if it's not listed. We are looking right now at replacement of devices.
okay, yeah, all right, for both schools, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we know, just for everyone's sake, we, for the middle school rebuild, you know, we've got a steering committee where everyone, the departments are involved, everyone's had a chance, but can you tell us a little bit about who you're engaged with at the two different schools for this, you know, for the design elements of it, like the outdoor learning education and, you know,
Oh, just to start real quick, and Ted, you can add to it. Our first is starting with the administrators. We first kind of went over the list with each administrator, and then we engaged the PTA as well as the staff at each school site.
okay, just curious because we know so much about this one, but this is kind of our first time learning about the other schools. So this
And
is
just our plan is to go back in fall and to keep, as we're going down this timeline, keep going back to those meetings and updating folks.
okay. And the last thing just popped up because I recognize right away that this was kind of modeled off of Edna McGuire's outdoor learning room. And at Edna McGuire, they have that, then they've got all the planter beds, and then further towards the chicken coop, they've got that circular bench area, which is kind of like your tree stumps circular, right? And now this is 10-ish years ago, after the garden was, when Edna McGuire was rebuilt and the garden was redone. Not funds for everything, but one thing they wanted to do, and I think the PTA was trying to do, was to erect a shade structure over that circular bench area because it got hot. But of course, whenever you cover a child's head, it has to go through GSA. So all of a sudden PTA dollars, which you could do in your backyard, all of a sudden would not even cut close to even getting a set of drawings done to submit. And so then that was stopped right away. And so these garden circles, I'm just wondering if I'm adding costs here. I understand that. I'm just wondering if the conversation's been had about whether or not we place a shade structure over those circles.
Actually, part of the discussions with the sites was, and JK was very clear about that, this is schematic design, as you know, this is the beginning, getting input from everybody. The image was really a suggestion at this point. It could be anything we want, either boulders, movable furniture, but really the intent was to allow as much flexibility with whatever furniture would be brought on site. So essentially providing a structure and allowing people to use the space as they want, whether it's chairs, stumps. So I think there are options to look at what kind, it might not be the
something,
stump,
I get
but it
that,
might
but
be
I'm wondering,
more movable.
or I'm wondering if it should be looked at to be covered with a
We
shade
could add
structure.
a second shade structure.
Well, no, because
But
I don't think in a 24 by 24 space, you can fit a classroom. Especially with the sun angle, they're both south facing, so you're in there between, I don't know, 10 and 3. And the sun's kind of going into that area. So I don't know, and just a really hot day and you want to try and get your kids to garden, but you want them not kind of, I'm sorry, I can't take public comment during this time. I'm just wondering if we should expand the 24.
So look at the little sail things that you put over. I don't know if those. Okay,
we will look into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I recognize I just added cost, so
Yeah.
I'm just asking about the compensation.
we're looking into it.
Related
Uh,
question.
Trusting and like Kenny noted, it's like, it is not something we can get at the home improvement store and install.
Right.
It has to go through the state architect and it needs to meet higher requirements. So we'll definitely look into it and get
Yeah.
back to you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Related question with the partially enclosed structure. How does it compare size-wise to Edna's outdoor learning structure?
Edna, like we said, was kind of the benchmark that we were looking at. And to your comment earlier about having equity across the different campuses, it is the same size as Edna.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the alternative, if it's not feasible from a budget standpoint, is you have that to provide shade or to provide cover when there's rain, and you're not going out to sit in that circle if it's 90 degrees and sun beating down upon you.
Yeah, it's just the sun comes in like.
I will
Not
add
like
in just
this.
from kind of a design standpoint, again, this is early in schematic design. We're gonna make changes throughout the process as we progress the designs here and there. There is a kind of a closer relationship on these two school sites, between the learning circle and the shade structure itself. That perhaps there is at Etna, which we have been out to with Julio and walked around there as well. And the other thing I would say is that these two campuses are a little bit more unique than Edna in the fact that they're both kind of right up against the trees in these two locations. Specifically, I think where we have Learning Circle and TAM is going to be kind of right, trees are going to be right to your back to the south. As well as on Strawberry, I believe it's a little bit larger trees, not as dense, but they are kind of overhanging kind of that southwestern portion of the site.
Okay, all right. Just,
Okay.
just knowing what our kids went through, so
Yeah.
asking the questions.
Yeah.
With that, any other thing they're looking for a motion to approve?
Asked, answer really good question.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we will move to consider approval of amendment to superintendent contract. And I'm presenting this item. So pursuant, I don't know, I want to say pursuant, I want to say per past board practices. And our audience is not very large anymore, but I will say a superintendent's evaluation is very black and white, by definition, by kind of like California. And you either get a satisfactory or unsatisfactory rating. And Dr. Kaufman came out with flying satisfactory ratings. And she has been, the board has approved an adjustment to her compensation and salary and contract that has been all shared with everybody. So I don't think you have any questions. And with that, I don't think I need to do, we don't vote on this. I'm just presenting it.
You have to
Yeah.
prove it.
We do?
Mhm.
Okay, it just doesn't say vote. So can I get a motion to approve the changes to Dr. Kaufman's contract?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Thank you, Dr. Kaufman, for all your hard work.
Thank you very much for having me and keeping me.
You're welcome.
Pleasure. And next we will have consider approval of resolution 16-2324 for the parcel tax, and Dr. Kaufman will present this.
So this is a special parcel tax to impose the election for our upcoming vacancies on our board. So it's a resolution and we need a movement second and roll call vote.
Okay, could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Oh, it's a roll call vote.
Oh, roll call, sorry. Trustee Cernsa Chaj,
Aye.
trustee Katz,
Aye.
and I'm trustee Nakatani, and I'm an aye. And the next, the resolution 17-2324 authorization to sign.
Is there?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so this is just to increase the certain employees who are able to sign on behalf of the board. You'll probably be seeing these a few more times as we hire new staff, but in this case, it enables individuals to sign.
Thank you. I don't think there's any more discussion. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. A second. And this is a roll call vote. Trustee Cernsa Chaj,
Aye.
trustee Katz.
Aye.
And I'm trustee Nakatani, and I'm an aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And now we will go to future board items. And I think,
May
well, I don't know, would we want to do public comment first, or would you like to?
Yeah, I think I can present the item just to follow our usual, one of the items that we
we have a board governance retreat on scheduled for June 20th. And I think the recommendation would be to keep the retreat we have scheduled in August and give that ourselves some time in August to do the board self-evaluation and look further at goals and plans for the year at that time, rather than trying to do a board self-evaluation and governance retreat right now, like next week.
When is the August date?
I don't have it on the top
Does
of my
anybody?
head, but it is in our annual board calendar.
Is it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sid.
And then I don't know if there are other items, but
I
we can
don't,
have,
before we take the public comment, do we have any other future board items by? any
No, I just wanted to
trustees?
reiterate, though, the minimum reserve policy is already thought of and will be part of the process, so that
yeah,
will
it
inform
will-
the budget committee, so that.
That's a budget committee.
and the board will have to approve it. I mean, that's something that will come to the board
Okay,
hopefully soon, once we close our books and figure out what reserves we should have.
Sure. Okay.
It may be something that's difficult to get community agreement on, so it may be something the board just needs to make a decision on.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I have my notes. And we have public comment from James Isles, but he's not here. What, he left?
And I do,
Okay.
I mean, to that end, one of the things that I think that we will be revisiting, which is something that the community may not know, but we've already directed staff to evaluate our enrollment policy. And so I think, you know, we have not yet gotten to a review, even as staff, of the audit findings, but I think that was something that was noted by the board, and I believe we are supposed to bring something back to the board by November. It might make sense to bring it back by October, because I would like to get our our registration process started earlier, but we are aware of the concerns, and I think we'll need to make a new board policy and really revisit our commitment to having two schools at each site. I mean, two classrooms at each school. I think that's, you know, something that's impacting us as enrollment declines in the Strawberry area. And then additionally, our interpretation of balanced class sizes district-wide, which is also a bargainable impact. But I think those are issues that are constraining our ability to serve our families to the best of our ability, and we need to address them.
Yes, and I did want the gentleman who spoke about that to know that, you know, the notion that we're serving a system rather than the people, basically the organization, has been heard, and so how do we juggle an enrollment policy and all its component parts and run a business? Because we are running a business, you know, there's a financial component to this. And, you know, all those parts are up in the air, and I think we'll make a good decision. I applaud that we're looking at this enrollment policy, because I have a perspective from 3 states and many school districts, and there are other ways that we can do this. It will just require that all our partners be involved, right? And I'm looking at our MBTA partners, who are very, very busy right now in the audience, but I know that we'll engage them around enrollment.
just called you
policy.
out.
But it's okay, around enrollment policy, you know, just that I'm encouraged to hear from our superintendent that we're going to be looking at that. And I look forward to a collaborative conversation, because there's a lot of important parts and we all want, you know, our families to feel that we're in the service of our children and our schools and our educators too. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kaufman. Thank you, everyone. This is our
To be continued.
last meeting before the end of the.
Work. Our plate's already full.
That's all right.
So, I just want to say happy promotions. I know we don't necessarily call them graduations, but happy promotions to all of our 5th graders and our 8th graders. And really all the kids moving up, you know, Congratulations to all.
And I will be at the Park School promotion tomorrow
Okay.
morning, and then looking forward to seeing people at the MS.
Yes.
Is that a promotion too? Do we call it a promotion?
Promotion. Yeah.
All right.
They're not graduating.
Very
yet.
exciting. That's right.
Exactly.
Yes,
Not
I'll-
graduating yet.
I'll be at Old Mill tomorrow. I had a little internal debate, Old Mill, Etna.
Oh.
And I was at Edna's last year, and Old Mill sometimes doesn't get the full love and attention
Oh,
that
that's so
that they deserve.
All of you.
And I will by default be there at Edna's next year.
year,
So Old Mill and MVMS. So excited to celebrate our students.
I will see everyone at MVMS. All right. All right.
Oh, and
Thank
by
you.
the
With
way, should
that-
I wear my
No.
I dare you.
Wear that doctor.
I dare you.
Okay, you dare me. I'll-
If we take a high school on, we can all wear it.
For sure. All right, thanks.
Okay, with that, meeting adjourned, 7:47. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa.